Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, July 29th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 584 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are recapping day number 6 of New York Jets training camp, giving you all of my biggest takeaways on the field. And of course, a little bit later on, we'll take a look at some clips and sound from the media earlier this afternoon. Aaron Glenn spoke as usual. Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson also met the media, and Will McDonald made some comments as well. So we'll dive into that a little bit later on. A lot to break down and to discuss from today's practice. But before we begin, we have to talk about the roster news, the kicking change that was announced earlier today. Glenn announced it himself, and earlier in the day, you kind of got the hint that we were in for a reunion. Nick Folk, of course, tried out yesterday for the Jets. Earlier this morning, news came out Caden Davis was released, leaving Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker, the only kicker on the roster. So out goes Caden Davis, in comes Nick Folk. He returns to the New York Jets. Of course, 2010 to 2016, 7 seasons with the team, 17 seasons total in the NFL. He's entering his 18th season here at 40 years old, and he'll be 41 in November. So the Jets add a veteran at kicker and someone who is very familiar with this franchise, very familiar, of course, with hitting big kicks for this franchise, especially obviously in that 2010 playoff run, the last time this Jets team made the playoffs. And I have to throw this interesting nugget in here before we get into what, of course, took place on the field. Nick Folk is now teammates with Mason Taylor. Nick Folk was also teammates back in 2010, the last time the Jets made the playoffs. In Nick Folk's first season with the Jets, he was teammates with Mason Taylor's dad, Jason Taylor. So that is kind of just crazy, just to show you the longevity of Nick Folk, to show you how long the Jets' playoff drought has been, and just how weird things like that can happen in sports. So that's the latest there. Nick Folk, of course, been a very, very good kicker. The last 2 years, his field goal percentage has been the best in the NFL. Last season alone, kicked a field goal percentage at a 95.5% clip. The year prior, 96.7. That's about 96% over the last 2 seasons, which puts him atop of the league. Even though he's getting older, he has still shown the ability to kick it and have success. And the Jets add a veteran to that room, and we'll see how the rest of it plays out here as training camp in the preseason rolls on. Also, quick note, Braylon Allen did not practice today, dealing with some knee soreness, so gave him the day off today. The Jets have a scheduled day off tomorrow before returning to the field on Thursday. So that's the latest injury update from that perspective. Now on to what happened in practice, what took place on the field. All in all, it was a very, very good day for the New York Jets defense. Probably one of the more lopsided practices that we have seen so far 6 days in. The defense was all over the field, and the offense really up until late. The 2-minute drill, they had success, and it led to a touchdown drive. But all in all, the rest of practice was dominated by the defense. And You look at Justin Fields and what he did, it certainly wasn't his strongest day today. And the offense as a whole, it wasn't their strongest day today. You look at the different sets of drills. We'll get to the first set of 3 sets of 11-on-11 drills. We'll break down, and it will break down the 2-minute drill, which ended the day on a high note for the offense. But the offense today started with a couple incompletions, starting to Garrett Wilson. However, it did seem like there was a Brandon Stevens PI, although Brandon Stevens actually had a very good day today. But multiple incompletions early on. There was a Mason Taylor drop. He ended up revenging himself with the touchdown later on. Little bit behind him on the throw, but still a play that he should have made. And just all in all, a lot of pressure early on in the first set of 11-on-11 drills. No completions, lots of pressure, a drop, just messy, a little discombobulated there. As for the second set of 11-on-11 drills, it started with a run that was stopped. Quinnen then had a run stuff, so back-to-back run plays that didn't go very far. Quinnen in the interior today had a very good day against the run. And looking at this defensive line now with the pads on, you're going to get a better idea of how they're looking against this at stopping the run, something that, of course, they need to be better at this year and were today. And then Fields tried to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. It was incomplete, broken up by Brandon Stevens. All in all, there has certainly been some Brandon Stevens moments here in training camp that he's been on the wrong side of some highlights, but you take that away and you look at the good. All in all, Brandon Stevens through 6 days has put together a nice training camp, much better than where he was in the spring, by far so far. And you want to continue to see this build for him in a positive direction, getting these reps against Garrett. When the joint practices come around, he'll get an opportunity against Malik Neighbors. He's going to get a ton of chances here against top receivers to improve, work on what he needs to work on, and get better against the best. And today, the pass breakup, good play, good coverage. A couple times we've seen him win some of those battles. So that was the second set, still nothing going. You go to the third set of 11-on-11 drills. Brees run got things started, not many yards. Then there was a completion to Brees for about 10 to 12. And in a what would have been sack, Fields was able to get it to Reynolds, but in a real game scenario, probably would have taken the sack. Couple different guys in the area. Arian Smith then had a drop, and that ended that drive. So all in all, just choppy, little messy, some drops, some incompletions, a sack, pressure, not much going on from a run game perspective. So that was primarily it. And look, you're going to have days like that. This is not Jet fans, oh no, offense had one bad day. As it is in training camp. If the offense has a great day, that means the defense struggled. If the defense has a great day, that means the offense struggled. You got to take it with context. You can't read too much into all of this. But you do like to see the offense finish the day strong. And that's exactly what happened. In the 2-minute drill, Fields commanded it very well. The Jets put 51 seconds on the clock, which is what they did at the 2 open practices that I were at. Probably so far the best conducted 2-minute drill, ultimately ending in a touchdown. The majority of them so far to kick off training camp have just been getting them into field goal range, settling for 3. This one, they were able to drive down, good clock management, smart decisions from Fields, ending in a touchdown. So it started off with a dump off to Brees. Then there was an incompletion to Garrett, bit of an overthrow, not Fields' best throw. The next play, he went back to Garrett. He did connect, very short completion. Then there was a scramble for about 10 yards, which was a big play because that's a third down situation, right? You're going incomplete, short to Garrett, third down situation. Nobody was open, had to roll out, buy himself some time, utilize his legs. That's something that you like to see out of Justin Fields. That's one of his strengths, and something that in a game scenario, you'd love that. A third down situation where he can take off and pick up a chunk of yards and keep the chains moving. There was an Allen Lazard sighting. about an 18 to 20-yard reception. Nice adjustment by Lazard to adjust his body, adjust his hands a bit to come back to the ball. He has had a very, very quiet training camp. Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, those guys have been way more productive and involved in the offense than what you've seen out of Allen Lazard. So that's a play that, where he is on this roster, you're really starting to wonder if he's even this team's wide receiver 3. So a play like that certainly is something that he needs in camp. And then to close things out, Mason Taylor, touchdown, 15 yards, near pylon. Good throw, good play. Fields saw the defense, found the pocket, found Taylor. Reliable option, somebody that he's targeted a lot. He loves targeting the tight ends. Just a good situational, smart decision by Fields. Good throw in a 2-minute drill spot to close out practice. So all in all, a rough day for the offense and a bit of a bumpy day for Fields, who finished 7 of 11 in 11-on-11 drills total, but 4 of 5 in the final drive. So 4 of those 7 completions came on the final drive. So good finish to practice, poor start for the offense and the quarterback spot. You look at some of the other positions on offense, Brees, running backs wise, with no Braylon, obviously nothing from him today. All in all, on the ground, there wasn't a ton going. Again, the defensive line was holding up really well today from a run defense perspective, but you saw Brees get involved a lot in passing situations, whether it was the dump off to start off the 2-minute drill. There was another situation where he had a completion for about 10 to 12 yards in the third set of 11-on-11 drills, one of the bigger plays of the day. So Brees, not a ton run game wise on the ground, but receptions wise, you saw more from him from a receiving perspective. As for the receivers, like I said, Lazard, there was an Allen Lazard sighting. It feels like we haven't said his name in a very long time. And that certainly doesn't help his case, especially when a guy like Tyler Johnson's had the camp that he's had so far. I think there's a real chance he could be this team's wide receiver 3. And your 1, 2, 3 are Garrett, Reynolds, Tyler Johnson. We'll see, though. Still a lot of time left for that. Arian Smith had a drop. You haven't really seen that from Arian Smith. So, you're not going to overreact to one drop. And Ontario, also known as Pokey Wilson, did have a nice grab. So there's a bottom of the depth chart rostered nugget for you today. Adrian Martinez to Pokey Wilson. A nice connection there. Tight ends, like I said, Mason Taylor dropped, did come back, had the touchdown. Stone Smart actually had a nice leaping grab against Tyrod. Somebody's got to start to emerge here behind Mason Taylor as a guy with a bit of receiving upside. Stone Smart's more of your bigger slot. That's what he's been. That's kind of what he feels like. You haven't seen a ton from Ruckert this camp. He's actually had a couple penalties. And Zach Kuntz is just really nowhere to be found. So anytime you get something from one of those guys behind Mason Taylor, you have to hope that they can build on it, because the tight end too is really, really very rough looking from a receiving perspective. Sure, can Jeremy Ruckert block? Yes. Does Stone Smart have receiving upside? Yes. But can he do it consistently? Who knows? Has Zach Kuntz done anything at the NFL level? No. So, you'd like to see one of those guys start to emerge here a bit. With Mason Taylor, obviously the starter and the key piece in this offense, but behind him, you want some more clarity, the rest of the way here once we hit the regular season. As for the defense, tons of pressure. Quinnen had a big day, marked by a really nice run stuff in the early portion of team drills, was winning a lot of his one-on-one reps. Just one of those days where you're reminded of the elite talent that is Quinnen Williams. And you like to see days like today where they were good against the run. They were stout against the run. Does that mean the Jets are going to be the best run defense in the NFL? No, it's one practice in July. But with the pads coming on, you want to see a defensive line that shows you some improvement against the run, because it has been a unit up front that has struggled. The defense as a whole has struggled, but days like today, you want to see more of that. In terms of the linebacker unit, Quincy Williams is at a heck of a camp. And again, whether it's a Quinnen, a Garrett, a Sauce, anytime those guys make a play, you're not surprised because they do it pretty much every practice. But I have to admit, I think this is Quincy Williams' now 4th year with the Jets. I think out of all, or rather 5th year actually with the Jets. I think out of all years, I've been at camp for every one of Quincy Williams' seasons. Obviously, 2021, got picked up, got claimed. But in terms of him just sticking out, him and Jamien Sherwood every single day. And it's not like I'm surprised, but there has been something about Quincy Williams this camp where every day he is just making play after play after play, him and Jamien Sherwood. And again, I'm not saying that's much of a surprise or that's a big deal. Like, oh, Quincy Williams is going to have a great season. No, Quincy Williams is already an excellent linebacker. But there's something about this training camp that him and Sherwood have just been lighting it up. It feels like more so than in previous years. Does that mean we're in for a even better Quincy Williams season than maybe we thought? I mean, whether it's some of the run stops he's had. There's been a couple times blitzing-wise. But just more so just getting downhill, getting to the line of scrimmage, clogging running lanes, and picking up run stops. There's been a couple nice plays in coverage. Sherwood today forced an incompletion with Garrett. Down the field, Fields looked for Garrett. Sherwood was running with him stride for stride. Those guys have done a lot this training camp, both from a run-stopping perspective and a coverage standpoint. And as each day goes by, you just get more and more excited for what they can do as a duo this year. As for the secondary, Malachi Moore continues to just go off. And there's a very good chance the title of this video is Jets Rookie Shines. Because Malachi Moore, what he has done is simply phenomenal. He has been excellent the last couple days. And he's a player to really keep a close eye on and potentially might be, if the season started right now, or if we fast forward and he continues to do this and we hit week 1, there's a really good chance Malachi Moore is this team starting strong safety next to Andre Sisco. I mean, what he has done this entire training camp, but specifically just the last 2 days, very impressive stuff. And he feels like a guy. There's certain guys that you really want to evaluate once the pads come on. Malachi Moore is one of those players because he fits the bill of what you want in an Aaron Glenn player. And that's why I think his potential of starting for this team is a lot higher than maybe some expect. And it's not because Tony Adams is a bad camp, or even Isaiah Oliver, who could also be thrown in that conversation. He's actually had a good camp and actually made a nice play today, which we'll get to here in a second. It's just Malachi Moore has really emerged, and the Jets clearly liked him a lot. I really liked the pick. And the last 2 days with pads on, he's shown his specialty. He's a thumper in that safety room. He's got a ton of experience from college. He was a multi-year starter in an Alabama program in the SEC and was a 2-time captain. Obviously, most of those years coming under Nick Saban. That's a big deal. That's notable. And clearly Glenn and this regime caught on to that. And a lot of what he does fits what Glenn wants. He's competitive. He's physical. He can get downhill and stop the run. He can lay a big hit. He's a thumper from a tackling perspective. And he's also able to do some damage in the secondary in coverage. And you've seen that the last 2 days. Yesterday, he had a really big hit against Xavier Gipson. Boom, pads come on, and he delivers a big blow. And then on yesterday as well, or during yesterday, he also had a pass breakup against Malachi Corley. And then you fast forward to today, and he had a tackle for loss against Dymere Miller. So the tackling, good tackler, short tackler, the bit of the speed, the physicality, the nastiness he plays with, the big hits that he can bring to the table, and his coverage ability have all been on display. And I think as each day goes by and he continues to progress as a rookie in training camp, you're going to see more and more out of him. Really exciting piece for this team. And I think there's a really good chance he's this team's week 1 starter. Forget about Tony Adams playing the first couple weeks and Malachi Moore slotting in. No, I think there's a good chance week 1 Malachi Moore's out there. And Glenn speaks so highly of him every time he gets an opportunity. Another day today where you walk away and he's one of the big takeaways from practice. Yesterday was the same case. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the 2 first days with pads on, because that's the type of player he is. And am I saying, look, I'm not saying that he's going to be the greatest rookie of all time, but you've seen a lot of positives in the last 2 days for Malachi Moore. Isaiah Oliver also had a pass breakup on Brandon Smith, and I mentioned the Brandon Stevens pass breakup earlier against Garrett Wilson. So that was the main takeaways from Jets practice today. Defense dominates. Malachi Moore has another productive practice. Quincy Williams and Jamie Sherwood continue to do their damage as well. Both of them have been very fun to watch this camp, very fun to follow, as to be expected. All right, so shifting from what took place on the field, let's take a look at some quotes and media from off the field after practice this afternoon. Here was Aaron Glenn on some training camp standouts that he saw today and so far this summer.
Listen, Stevens is continually doing a really good job on a daily basis, and I expect that from him. Quinn did a great job. I thought Quinn beat some one-on-one blocks today for the most part. I thought our linebackers really did a good job of running, because we expect those guys to do that. And you're going to always hear Quincy no matter what, good or bad. You know, so I'm hoping I want to go back and look at the tape and see exactly what he did, because his mouth seemed like he had a really good day today. So, but he usually do. So on the offensive side, I thought our running backs ran hard. The one thing that we want to pride ourselves on is, man, those 35 yards. Like we have to be accustomed to doing that. You know, because we know how teams are going to play us for the most part, and our guys got to be able to make sure we push the pile. And I thought our O-line did a good job today too.
Quincy, Quinn, Stevens, all in the mix on defense. And one of the interesting notes that he had there towards the end of that clip was just the run game. Like I mentioned earlier, not the best day from a run game perspective in terms of any big runs, any big Braylon Allen downhill, hit the hole, get to the second level and do damage type of runs. But there was a lot of those short yardage. And there is something to what Glenn said there about those short yardage, kind of grimy, ugly, not pretty 4 to 5 yard runs up the middle where you're pushing the pile and you're grinding for every single yard. It's the Jets team that hasn't been able to do that. And I all kind of just relate that back to the short yardage stuff that the New York Jets have struggled with over the years. 3rd and 1 situation, 4th and 1 situations where they would just get beat. Whether it was, a lot of times it's either a run play that would just get blown up, or they would try some dumb trickery play. The Jets would always a lot of times overthink those short yardage situations, but even when they ran the simple concepts, they couldn't execute them. That's something that's important. If this offensive line is as good as advertised, and this is a team that changes its identity and becomes more physical and starts winning the battle in the trenches, and you have a running back in Braylon Allen, who is that short yardage thumper, and you even have a guy in Brees who is capable of doing that, and even more importantly, Justin Fields in quarterback keeper situations, some of those quarterback sneaks, if you have kind of a tush-push situation. Short yardage for the Jets is going to be so important this year, and it's something that they've struggled with. And they've put themselves in a position with the running backs and a running quarterback to have more success. And Glenn talking about that there, the 4 to 5 yard runs, that's what's a lot of times needed. Yes, the flashy 20, 25, 40-yard touchdowns, that's great, but the 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 situations, that's a lot of times those little margins that can change the trajectory of a game. The difference between going 3 and out and the difference between extending the drive and moving the change and getting a fresh set of downs. So thought that was interesting there towards the end from Glenn. Wanted to dive into that a little bit more. Glenn also talked about Will McDonald, just talked about how much he wants to be coached and how he wants to get better. Right, we heard Glenn the other day with the bull rush on talking about the bull rush and Will McDonald and the coaching aspect in that and getting that out of him. We all know the spin move and the athleticism. Next is the power moves for McDonald, who put on, of course, some size this offseason. One more clip here from Glenn. Here he was on the New York Jets' new acquisition at kicker, Nick Folk.
We brought in Nick Folk. Listen, he is a very established kicker in this league. When you go back and you look at his stats from last couple of years, man, they've been above board. And I've said this from the beginning: anybody that can help us win games, man, we're gonna take a look at that. And obviously he was available, and listen, and the terms worked out. And I thought Mooj and Nick did a really good job. And I'm happy that he chose us, all right, to be a part of what we're trying to do. He is signed.
So that was Glenn essentially announcing the Nick Folk signing. He walks into that locker room instantly, the oldest player on this roster by a pretty wide margin. We'll see what happens, whether him or Mevis is out there. I think there's a really good chance it is Nick Folk. But credit to the Jets here, first of all, recognizing, right, Caden Davis was struggling. Mevis obviously hasn't quite, in my opinion, I think most people would agree, has clearly not run away with the job. He hasn't even kicked in a preseason game yet, so you can't count him in or out yet. You still have to see a lot more. There's a lot more time here for him to go. But credit to the Jets for recognizing, look, you know, these two young guys, it's getting a little choppy. There's a veteran out there, reliable, has kicked well, has shown no signs of slowing down. We know, though, with kickers, right, it's just like a reliever in baseball. Once they lose it, it's gone, and it can happen at any moment. But looking at Folk's track record, he has shown no signs. And if he continues what he's done, he'll be a very productive kicker for this team if he does win this job. Moving on now to Justin Fields. He also met the media. Here he was, his thoughts on his tight end one, Mason Taylor.
I mean, Mason's, you know, he doesn't talk a lot. You know, he does work a lot, though. You know, from the moment he got here, he's been working, his head down working. He doesn't make, you know, really any mental mistakes, at least from what I've seen. You know, he's a great route runner. He's smooth, has natural hands, so he's been great so far.
So that was Taylor or Fields on Mason Taylor. Those two, of course, have hooked up a lot in training camp, and I think you expect a lot of that in the regular season. Fields likes his tight ends. Mason Taylor, hopefully, is a reliable option for him. Fields also spoke on how he feels since the toe injury and his performance on the practice field over the last few days.
How do you evaluate yourself these last 2 days since you've come back?
I think I've been all right. You know, I think, you know, I'm always going to say there's room to improve. Like I said, today, you know, the offense as a whole, you know, we didn't start off great. I think I think we finished off great. But like I said, we want to start fast, finish fast, and, of course, maintain that in between as well.
One more clip from Fields. He spoke on some of his personal goals for this season.
Looking ahead, what are some expectations you have for yourself?
Except for myself, you know, just be the best leader on this team I can be. I think that's the biggest thing, you know, just being in my position, you know, leading this offense, having us reach our full potential, me being the best player and also elevating the players around me and, you know, competing each and every day out here. I think those are, you know, my main goals right now at least, but, you know, I'm just taking it day by day.
So that was Fields' return from practice field. Feels good. Or I mentioned the slow start today, but the strong finish. He did also say he is very close to 100%. All in all, just, again, another reminder. Finally nice to be on the right side of injury luck with Fields fully being back out there the last 2 days, of course, with the pads coming on. Two more players. Garrett Wilson met the media, and again, he spoke similar to a lot of other players on the competitiveness of practices and the difference from years past. Here was Garrett on what he's seen so far in training camp.
Yeah, just the competitiveness. not just talking about being competitive. Like, no, you got to train that way. It's got to feel like that at practice. It's got to feel like if you lose, it sucks at practice. It can't just be, oh, we'll turn it on when the game comes, right? And I think that's the main thing that I see that's different, just the way we're practicing, the intensity, the stakes. It feels like there's stakes, depending on which period it is, the stakes feel higher based on whether it's a competition red zone or a 2-minute. It feels like you won the drill when you won the drill, right? And it feels like you lost when you lost. And to me, that's how I like it. It's practice, yes, but there's also an opportunity to practice winning and get that feeling and what it takes to just do it, right, on a consistent basis. And I think it starts out here. So
lots of players, Garrett now as well, and big-time players for this team, whether it's Brees, Garrett, AVT even talked about it. Essentially everyone's that's spoken to the media has commented and how they've liked this practice and how they haven't really felt this practice, especially for the players that have been on this Jets team in previous years, the total 180 from what it's been under Robert Saleh. And Garrett even talked about how if he has a drop, he lets one hit the ground, Glenn will get on him for that, right? He'll let him know. He'll, hold him accountable for that. Those type of things go a long way. And Garrett even mentioned that he likes that out of Glenn. He likes that type of coaching. And that's something that we never saw with the previous regime. And something that I think gets lost in the shuffle is these players want to be coached. They want to be coached tough. They want to learn. They want to get better. They enjoy this type of coaching staff being vocal, being very heavy on teaching and all those different things. They haven't gotten that at all. They're getting that now. And it's drawing rave reviews so far, especially the competitiveness at practices, the tackling, just everything. The physicality, of course, the drills, right? The tackling drills, like that's all been widely praised. And you even have guys like AVT talking about he hasn't really seen accountability in his first 4 years here. Now he has, right? This is really the first time. So it's another player here, one of your star players, talking about that and praising Glenn and this coaching staff. One other comment from Garrett. This was him on this offense and his expectations.
I think it can look like. I think it can be. I think it can be explosive, man. It's something that's going to be very complimentary. The better we can run the ball, with especially the running backs we got and Justin's ability to run the ball and Tyrod. I mean, the more push we can get, the more we can run the ball on second and short and convert. That stuff's just going to open up everything for us. So as a receiver room, we're really excited to just see how this thing progresses, see how it all complements each other, and by the time we get into the season, hopefully we're rolling. Y'all can see that too.
So that was Garrett on the offense. Will McDonald also met the media. Here was his basically breakdown of his offseason and the size that he put on and the position he's in as training camp has begun.
15 pounds. So before this, I was around I want to say I was around 235, OTAs. I went down on purpose because I'm trying to get all that fat out, trying to get more muscle mass. And then, just come with eating right foods, all of that. And, I was able to gain a couple pounds from doing that. And now I'm out here balling. And so, that's what I'm going to keep doing.
15 pounds he put on this offseason. That's big. Bull rush, hopefully stopping the run improves as well. And just the pass rushing in general. We all know what he can bring to the table. 10.5 sacks. Will McDonald quickly becoming a fan favorite, quickly becoming one of the big time pieces, not only on this New York Jets defense, but this New York Jets team as a whole. Young, on the rise, getting into that territory of being a big time blue chip type of star kind of player for this team. Will McDonald also had a funny quote on playing Aaron Rodgers week 1 and the hope of sacking him.
Would it be fun to get your own quarterback in week 1, sack Rodgers?
Yeah, I always wanted to, sack Rodgers, from a little kid. Actually, let me not say that, because a little kid, I wasn't even interested in playing football. But I did watch him, though. I watched him a lot. But, once I like I said, when I first came here, obviously I wasn't, able to do that because we were on the team. But now, I think he's going to be very competitive. I'm sure he already knows, what I'm about. So I'm sure he's going to have his head on his shoulders. Obviously he's a vet, so I'm sure he got a couple tricks up his sleeve.
So hopefully Will McDonald, maybe Jermaine Johnson, Quinn, and hopefully it's a sack parade. Everybody gets in on the party on that week, in that week 1 matchup, September 7th out at MetLife Stadium. That would be awesome. Will McDonald certainly would be among that hopefully get to Aaron Rodgers in week 1. McDonald also had a cool quote and cool note too, that him and Membu have been watching film together, which I think is really interesting and pretty cool. 2 guys that have gone at it in training camp, 2 guys that can kind of learn from each other. But specifically Membu's case, right? Learning from what Will McDonald sees in his game. He's a rookie. It's a great opportunity for Membu to go up against him every single day in practice and forming that bond. So that was one other note to mention as well. And that's that. Another episode in the books. Appreciate you all so much for the support. It means so much here on the podcast. Tomorrow is an off day for the New York Jets. They will be back out on the practice field on Thursday, so look forward to covering that. Tomorrow we will have you covered, though, with a New York Jets player preview episode. Of course, we'll have our Wednesday edition of that, so stay tuned. And any other Jets news notes that comes out, we'll be here, of course, discussing it all. Appreciate your support. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Your biggest takeaways from day 6 of New York Jets training camp and any other Jets thoughts. Let me know down below. Appreciate you all so much. Talk to you soon. Until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.